Hey there, America. Let's talk about something near and dear to all our hearts, especially as we inch closer to retirement, or dream about early retirement. Social Security. Now, you might think this is a snooze fest, but trust me, this is juicy stuff. It involves Elon Musk, accusations of massive fraud, and enough government bureaucracy to make your head spin. Buckle up, folks, because things are about to get interesting. It all started with a tweet, as these things often do. Elon Musk, the guy who wants to send us all to Mars, decided to weigh in on something a little closer to home Social Security. He threw out a number that seemed, well, let's just say it seemed off. Musk claimed there were 18.9 million centenarians, that's people over 100 years old, in the Social Security database. 18.9 million. To put that in perspective, that's like saying everyone in the state of New York is over 100. And not just New York, but throw in Florida for good measure. Something didn't add up. Now, you might be thinking, John, maybe Elon's onto something. After all, we're living longer these days, right? Well, not quite that long. See, there's this little thing called the Census Bureau. They're in charge of counting everyone in America. And guess what? They only found about 86,000 centenarians. That's a discrepancy from Elon's 18.9 million. So what gives? Is Elon completely off his rocker, or is there something fishy going on with Social Security? Let's dig a little deeper, shall we? Okay, so we've got Elon's eyebrow-raising claim and the Census Bureau's much more believable number. Who do we believe? Well, thankfully there's a third party in all of this, the Social Security Administration's Inspector General. Basically, they're the government's internal watchdogs, making sure things are on the up and up. And guess what? They did an audit. The audit actually found that the Social Security database had 18.9 million people listed as 100 years old or older. Okay, case closed, right? Elon was right all along. Not so fast, my friend. See, finding those names in a database doesn't mean they're all kicking back on a beach somewhere, cashing Social Security checks. It's a little more complicated than that. Think of it like your junk drawer, the one with the tangled phone chargers and expired coupons. Yeah, that one. Just because something's in there doesn't mean you're using it. It's the same with the Social Security database. It's full of old records, some dating back decades, and sometimes those records don't get updated as they should. People die, they move, but their information, it just hangs out in the database like a digital ghost of Social Security past. Here's the thing about those 18.9 million centenarians, only a tiny fraction were actually receiving benefits. We're talking about 44,000 people. That's still a lot of folks over 100 getting checks, but it's nowhere near the 18.9 million Elon was shouting about. So what about the other 18.4 million? Well, the audit found that most of them hadn't earned benefits for something like 50 years. In other words, they were most likely deceased. Their records just hadn't been properly updated. It's like when you forget to delete your ex's number from your phone, it's still there taking up space, but you're definitely not calling them. Now this is where we need to make a distinction. Database errors are the same as fraud. A database error is like accidentally wearing mismatched socks. It's embarrassing, sure, but it's not malicious. Fraud, on the other hand, is like stealing someone's socks and then selling them on eBay. It's intentional, and it's illegal. And in the case of Social Security, it's actually pretty rare. So, we've established that the Social Security database is a bit of a mess. But is it a hotbed of fraud, as Elon Musk would have you believe? Well, not exactly. Elon saw that 18.9 million number and jumped straight to biggest fraud in history. He even tweeted about it because of course he did. Now I get it, Elon's a businessman. He sees a big number and thinks, someone's gotta be pocketing some serious cash. And sure, there's always going to be some level of fraud in any system. But to call this the biggest fraud in history, that's like saying the McRib is the pinnacle of culinary achievement. It's just not true. Experts who actually study this stuff have pointed out that Elon's confusing two different things, having a Social Security number and actively receiving benefits. It's like having a library card versus actually checking out books. Just because you have a card doesn't mean you're constantly borrowing Tolstoy. So, while Elon might be busy launching rockets and buying social media platforms, it seems like he might need a little refresher course on how Social Security actually works. Section 5, the real threat to Social Security, it's not who you think. Here's the thing, folks. While Elon's busy chasing phantom fraudsters, there's a much bigger threat to Social Security. And it's not some shadowy cabal of centenarians double-dipping on their checks. It's much more boring, and much more real, the solvency crisis. See, Social Security is facing a bit of a cash flow problem. The number of people paying into the system is shrinking, while the number of people receiving benefits is growing. It's like trying to water a giant lawn with a garden hose. Something's gotta give. Now before you panic and start hoarding canned goods, let me be clear. Social Security isn't going bankrupt tomorrow. But if we don't do something, it's projected to start missing payments by the mid-2030s. That means people who rely on Social Security could see their benefits slashed. And that's not good for anyone. Let's break down this solvency thing a bit more, shall we? Imagine Social Security as a giant piggy bank. Every time someone works and pays taxes, some of that money goes into the piggy bank. Then when they retire, they get to take some money out. Sounds simple enough, right? The problem is we're taking more money out of the piggy bank than we're putting in. People are living longer, which is great, except when it comes to Social Security because it means more years of collecting benefits. Plus, the baby boomer generation, a whole bunch of folks born after World War II, is starting to retire, and they like to spend money. Can you blame them? Now I know what you're thinking. John, this sounds dire. Is there any hope? Well, hold your horses, Chicken Little. The sky isn't falling. Yet. There are things we can do to fix this. It's just going to take some political will, which, let's be honest, is about as common as a unicorn riding a unicycle while juggling rubber chickens. But hey, a guy can dream, can't he? Alright, enough doom and gloom. Let's talk solutions. How do we fix this Social Security mess? Well, the good news is that experts have been banging on about this for years. The bad news is nobody in Washington seems to be listening. One idea is to raise the retirement age. I know, nobody wants to work longer. But remember how we talked about people living longer? Well, maybe it's time to adjust retirement accordingly. Another option is to increase the amount of money people pay into Social Security. It's a small price to pay for peace of mind in your golden years, right? There are also more radical ideas like allowing Social Security to invest in the stock market. It's riskier, sure, but it could also lead to bigger payouts down the road. Of course, this is all theoretical. Getting Congress to agree on anything is like trying to herd cats. But hey, a little optimism never hurt anyone, right? Now I know we've been poking fun at Elon Musk, and rightfully so, but there's a serious point to be made here. When someone with a huge platform like Elon spreads misinformation, it has real-world consequences. People get scared. They start to distrust important institutions like Social Security. And it makes it even harder to have a rational conversation about how to fix these problems. We need to be careful about the information we consume and share, especially when it comes to something as vital as Social Security. So, next time you see a headline about Social Security that seems too crazy to be true, take a moment to verify it. Check the source. Look for evidence. Don't just blindly share something because it confirms your biases. We owe it to ourselves and to future generations to be better than that. So there you have it, folks. The Social Security fraud Elon Musk was so worked up about, turns out it was mostly just a case of bad data management. But the real crisis, the one that threatens the future of this vital program, that's very real. And it's going to take all of us working together to find a solution. We need to demand better from our elected officials. We need to hold them accountable for making the tough decisions necessary to ensure that Social Security is there for generations to come. Because at the end of the day, it's not about politics, it's about people. It's about ensuring that everyone, regardless of age or income, has the opportunity to retire with dignity and security. And that's something worth fighting for.